Back in that bag again. Whoa, yeah. Hey. Back in that, yeah.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Splash City Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hartman. Excited to talk Wolves today. We got a full hour of Wolves discussion with Zone Coverage's Andrew Dukowitz. Excited to have Andrew on the podcast today. We'll talk everything from the Wolves start, the bench, Jaden, Rudy. We cover a lot of ground today. So sit back, buckle up. If you get a chance, share this podcast with some friends, family. Get over to Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, follow Splash City Basketball Podcast. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, leave a review. And with that, let's get into it. This is the Splash City Basketball Podcast. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Splash City Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hartman. Excited to talk Wolves today. We got a full hour of Wolves discussion with Zone Coverage's Andrew Dukowitz. Excited to have Andrew on the podcast today. We'll talk everything from the Wolves start, the bench, Jaden, Rudy. We cover a lot of ground today. So sit back, buckle up. If you get a chance, share this podcast with some friends, family. Get over to Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, follow Splash City Basketball Podcast. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, leave a review. And with that, let's get into it. All right, we are about 1/3 of the way through the NBA season, and I wanted to take a look at the Wolves, currently sitting 6th in the Western Conference. They finished 6th last year, kind of feels like a little bit of a holding pattern. Ran it back with a lot of the same guys. The West is unforgiving. So I wanted to bring on a special guest today to talk about Wolves, where they're at, kind of, what we're seeing from them this year, what makes this year's team a little different than last year's, and then look ahead at some really big games coming up for the Timberwolves. With me today, beat writer, reporter for Zone Coverage, Andrew Dukowitz. Also runs a couple podcasts, busy guy. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me on the Splash City Basketball Podcast.
Yeah, of course, man. Happy to be on. You reached out for me, and I'm always open and willing to talk hoops. So thanks for the introduction, and happy to chop it up with you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about your show, the podcast that you run, kind of how you got into the business, because I know you're working full time doing something else. So just kind of give the listeners a little introduction to your work and your writing at Zone Coverage.
Yeah, so I write over on Zone Coverage. I am like a credentialed beat reporter, so I have a couple articles that come out every week, usually like Wednesdays and Saturdays. And I try to focus kind of one of two ways, either on like really nerdy analytical pieces where it's like, this is what I'm seeing and here are the stats to like why Rudy Gobert is a floor setter for a team and why that's a good thing, especially when your team has a tendency to play down to competition. Or I try and take more of like the holistic side of basketball, which for people that follow me on X or TikTok, a lot of the stuff I post is questions that I ask that are more like, hey, what's it like being a father in the NBA? Like, how do you manage getting to a hockey game, a basketball tournament, and then come back and play backup point guard if you're Mike Conley? Jaden today braved the 16-degree weather to hand out hats, like beanie hats, books and book bags to 300 students in North Minneapolis, elementary kids. Like, I just love that type of stuff because I think it's so easy to be cynical and say, well, these guys have to do it. They get paid so much money. But then once you're kind of like in their world, like they don't have to do it. They don't, like they do get paid a lot of money, but like Mike Conley still has to wake up and like bring his kid to hockey practice. Jaden still has to wake up with the infant when he's on back from road trips. So that's kind of like where my writing goes. I think a lot of my coverage is more, I'm at practices. So I try and, clip videos of these guys working out, doing stuff, practice scrum, interview stuff that like, unless you're going on the Wolves YouTube, you don't really find on social media. So kind of found a niche that way. But I guess as far as like my journey to this is, up until this year, I've been a full-time RN for the last decade. So about 5 years ago, I kind of just took a leap to doing sports content. I kind of took a bet that there was a lot of fans out there that wanted the same weird niche. I want to see Rob pulling Rudy Gobert's weight cart in a gym all by himself type of content. And evidently people enjoy it because it's I mean, I can actually say this year, like I'm a part-time nurse and a full-time reporter. So been a weird journey, but I'm glad there's a lot of people out there like me and presumably like you that like kind of the weird behind the scenes basketball stuff.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, like humanizing these guys is so important because it is easy to get lost in that a little bit. And yeah, awesome journey, cool story. Um, listening to your podcast is inspiring for me because it's very like every fan the way you think. Like some of them are very
Mhm.
technical and they get really into statistics, but just for instance, like the one with Max Fuller today that you put out, like you guys just sounded like buddies hanging out, what talking about the Wolves, which is like what I think makes podcasts fun and successful and really cool. So
That was
nice.
kind of, I guess I didn't even plug anything I do, but I do host post game Links pod and post game Wolves pod on X or YouTube. You can find it at the Missing Minnesota. Missing Links is for the Links, Missing Wolves is for the Wolves. And like that was my whole thought with it was how do you make pulling back the curtain a little bit, my wife and I both really enjoy watching like let's play video game stuff on YouTube. So like we will sit there and watch some guy play a video game for 16 hours that we could purchase ourselves and play ourselves, but for some reason we really enjoy watching someone do it. And it's not because they're
Yeah.
like particularly good at the game, it's not because they're like particularly like skilled at whatever it is, but it's like the community and the like sense of like
Hmm.
kinship you get with the person that you're watching it. So my whole thought with like doing the live streams and everything was like, how do you bottle that? Like how do you build a community and make it feel like they're just watching a game with you or like they're just
Hmm.
playing a game with you? So I'm glad you noticed that because I really do try and make the pod as fan forward. Wherever they want to go with the pod, that's where we're going to go. And the other thing is, again, going back to the humanizing side of it, like I try to have a different guest on for every episode.
Hmm.
Everyone from like Max Fuller, Phil Mackey's joining a little bit later in January. Kyle Teige, Dane has popped on, and then down to like just fans, TikTok creators, people that are just really passionate about the Wolves, and same with the Lynx. Because I think like there is in media this almost like sense of like snobbery of like, oh, I don't want that person to be on because they're a content creator. But at the end of the day, like we're all just watching basketball. So
Right.
I'm glad that comes through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's maybe odd to have other podcast folks on mine, but I tell you what, like I told you, rising tide raises all ships,
Mhm.
right? Like I think the more people we can get engaged with basketball, talking about basketball, listening to people talk about basketball, the better. So check out Andrew's podcast. It's super fun. Good listen. So with that,
Appreciate it.
let's talk about Wolves. So the big news today, KG is back. The big ticket coming home to Minnesota. Kind of a business content community role with the Wolves. What does I guess KG's presence mean for this organization, or as you as a fan? Because I know I have big feelings about KG being involved, and it's been hurtful to not have him be involved. So how is it? How did this hit you today when you found out?
Yeah, I think it for me it just kind of confirmed everything that's been going on the last couple of years. Like Alex and Mark Laurie are very open about wanting Kevin Garnett back with the franchise. They're wearing the tree jerseys for 21 games this
Hmm.
year. Ant has commercials coming out with him. He's retweeting Wolves content. Like there's just been a lot of breadcrumbs. So kudos to the Wolves like content and PR people because like they paid off, right? Like they paid off the kind of slow roll for this. But to me,
Hmm.
it was honestly, I was at practice today and we asked Naz Reid, like, what do you think about Kevin Garnett coming back? And Naz Reid's just like, well, I've never met him, but like, seems like a cool guy. And it was just
Uh,
kind of an eye-opening of like, that is how this current Wolves team is. They don't have any connection. There's no one
yeah.
on roster that was on a team with Kevin Garnett. Mike Conley played against him. Rudy early in his career played against KG, but like
Hmm.
you know, KG was not Minnesota or Boston KG at that point. So I think it'll be fun to see how the young guys kind of interact with him and then just how involved he's going to be. Like, I'm pretty sure he still owns a house up here. I think he visits up here pretty frequently. So he's always been around. I think he's just been kind of keeping the Wolves at arm's length. And it'll just be really interesting and fun to see, like, is he at practices? Like Simone Augustus is at Lynx practices pretty frequently, or Sylvia Fowles when she's in town, she'll be at like a Lynx practice, like going through the motions and the drills with them. Like, are we going to see that from KG? Where if he's
Yeah.
just in the city, are we going to see him working with Julius on stuff? Because those are like meaningful contributions that you can learn from a great like that. And at the end of the day, it's probably more for the fans of just having that jersey eventually get retired, seeing him courtside once in a while. But I do think it'll also just help to put this culture in a different place of just more of like not toxic, you know, Glenn for whatever reasons kind of made some enemies in the NBA world. So I think it'll help put some of that stuff to bed too.
Yeah, I hope I mean, I hope so. Like you'd think so after all these years. I think there's probably a little blame to go on both sides of this
Yeah.
little feud that they had, right? Like, I mean, he was had the biggest contract in the NBA for a while. Did the Joe Smith deal, because KG wanted, there was just some things. So like, I think it goes both ways. Regardless, glad it's hopefully coming to an end and we can celebrate, like you said, aging myself when you say like some of these guys don't even really know who he is and we're all just obsessed, like this was our guy who grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. But super cool. I can't wait for that announcement as far as when they retire that jersey because that will be a fun night. Let's
Yeah,
talk about the current. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I would say for fans, I would expect KG will probably be in the building at some point this year. I don't think they're gonna announce it. I think it's gonna be something where it is just like organic. Kevin Garnett walks out of the tunnel in the third quarter and gets that pop. And like, who knows? Maybe he's at a handful of games and they're holding him back until like the perfect moment. But I don't think they're going to say like, January 17th, Kevin Garnett returns. Like, I think it's going to be
Yeah.
whoever has a ticket for that game is going to be at like a really memorable moment. So if you haven't made it to a Wolves game this year, start picking out some games that you think he might appear at, because I do
Yeah.
think it's going to be an organic, just crowd pop. Kevin Garnett walks out.
This has WWE style all over it, right?
Yes,
Like he's gonna come out of the tunnel, crowd's gonna go nuts. Garnett off the top
I'm
rope.
currently wearing a CM Punk shirt, so yes, it does have WWE style on it, and I am all for it.
Crossover is real.
Yep.
Uh, all right, so like let's talk about the current iteration of the Wolves. KG is not going to be suiting up. I mentioned this off the top. Just going into the off season, they didn't do a lot, right? They had to let Nikhil go, second apron, financial things that I don't understand, but they kind of brought back the same crew, development, guys get better, like that's going to be where we improve. Um, and so far, it feels, I guess, to me a little bit like flat, right? Like we're kind of where we were last year, sixth in the West. Um, there's it's real competitive. There's only a couple games that separate like second through seventh or something like that. So there's room to grow here. How would you assess the Wolves so far through the season, about a third of the way through, just in terms of what maybe you expected or, where they currently sit in the hierarchy of the West?
Yeah, I mean, first I'll just say, like, they bring back the same group, right? And all off season, kind of the talking points that are coming out of the players, coming from the coaching staff, is we are going to do the little things. We're going to play faster in transition. We're going to fight harder for rebounds. That's what the difference is going to be. And I think, there is some level of like, you have to believe coaches and players when they say that stuff, but I think everyone had their eyebrows raised a little bit of like, is Julius Randle just all of a sudden going to be a hustle player in year 10? Like, is Anthony Edwards really going to be running full speed to the corners on fast breaks? Like, but I think what we've seen is they have gotten a little better. Like, they're middle of the pack in pace. They're top 10 in both offense and defense. They're 3 games currently at time of recording behind the Nuggets for the 2 seed. Like, they have shown that they are a really good team. And quite frankly, like, there are stretches of games where they look unbeatable. Like, some of these fourth quarters against the kind of lesser teams in the league, they will just put together these strings of ball movement, scoring, like defensive intensity goes through the roof, and they can kind of just put a team away in 6 minutes. And it's almost frustrating because the team is so honest about it that like they realize that, quarters 1 through 3, they're not playing with the same energy as quarter 4. And they all kind of talk about how they need to do that for an entire game and just get consistent with it. And then it just doesn't happen. And then after the games, they're just kind of like, yeah, we weren't in the right headspace to play tonight, but turned it on and we got the win, right? And that gives you hope that this team's ceiling, if they were to just lock in for a full 48 minutes or even like 30 minutes, they could run with anyone in the league. But then on the other side of it, when the ball movement dries up, we're recording this the day after the Memphis loss, when, the fourth quarter starts and they're no longer going to second actions. They're just really kind of, Bones brings the ball up and there's not even a pass before he gets a shot off, which, like, Mr. Fulton, my middle school coach, is currently probably like clutching his chest by just the thought of that. But like, it's those things that also give you the like, if they can't figure out how to get that ball movement consistently, if they can't figure out how to get these guys to buy in, for a whole game instead of just parts, like teams like Oklahoma City are just going to probably put them away in 4 or 5 games. Even Denver capitalizes so well off of mistakes. So I guess to answer your question, like, I think coming into the season, I felt pretty strongly that they would be the 2 or the 3 seed. I think they'll probably be the 3 or the 4 seed now. I mean, I think I had them through the first 30 games being like 22-8 in when I was just kind of mapping it out. They're not far off of that. I think it's just still very much a work in progress, which again is frustrating for fans. It's frustrating because it's, what if we showed up to our jobs and just didn't work until the 3 to 5 hour? Like, most of us would probably be unemployed, but it's just different for the NBA.
Yeah. Well, and I think, this organization, this group has earned some equity in this regard, right? Like, a couple of years ago, they make the run to the Western Conference Finals. Last year, they're the 6th seed and just dismantled the Lakers in the first round. So I do believe that they are in that mix. I think what is sometimes baffling to me is like, let's just talk about the last couple of games, right? Golden State, they look really good. Bones goes out early, but they still are moving the ball. They're effective late. Next game, Sacramento's kind of the same. And then all of a sudden last night, they had like a quarter and a half of decent offense, and then it's just gone. And you got the same players. So like, you kind of think with Conley out, maybe that flow is disrupted, but he's been out for the last couple. So there's like this odd inconsistency, especially amongst players who, in my opinion, you've been in the league long enough, like Julius and Rudy and Jaden. I mean, those guys they've been around long. Nas, I mean, I don't know, it's what, year 6 for Nas. So it's just, to me, it's like kind of baffling to see that kind of just disappear, like for a couple minutes. Yeah, get a timeout, fix it, whatever. If you got a veteran crew or got guys that have played long enough, but it just I don't know. What do you see in those minutes where it just disappears? Like, is it just a lack of? Is it just guys wanting to get their own, or is there more to it than that?
Again, thankfully the Wolves players and Finch are painfully honest, I would say. Like we talked to Rudy and Julius after the Memphis game, and Julius is just like, yeah, we weren't hitting shots, so we started pressing, and kind of collectively the whole group was going, if I can just get myself going. Like Julius is like, if I can just get a couple buckets against Triple J, like then things on the outside will open up. Dante's going, if I can just hit this three and get out of this slump. Nas is going, if I can just hit this. Jaden's going, if I can just get to that weird little mid-range thing. And all of these guys, I mean, you look at Julius, you look at Dante, even Jaden, like in high school and college, like all of these guys have been primary options for most of their lives. So when they get into this mode where it's not like they freak out, but it's like when shots aren't falling, when they're shooting like under 35% from three, some of these guys just fall back into those old habits of like, if I just see one go in, then I'll feel better, I'll get more defensive attention, and I can swing it, and the next thing will happen, right? But then what ends up happening is, Julius is going, I need to make this one. Bones is going, I need to make this one. Jaden is, and then you have no ball movement because everyone knows if they pass it, they're never seeing the ball again because the next guy is going to try and get himself going. And I think what's frustrating is, I asked Finch about it today of just like, is this something that these guys are like receptive to? And he's like, there's quite a bit of pushback of like in the huddle. I'm, he's telling them, hey, we got to get back to our principles. But these guys are just so kind of locked in to getting themselves back on track that it doesn't get heard all the time. And unfortunately, I think the last 2.5 years, it has been Mike Conley is the guy that snaps him out of that because he calls for the inbound pass. He dribbles it up, breaks kind of whatever press it is, and then is able to get into a play, whether it's a pick and roll with Rudy where he slings the ball to the corner, hits Rudy on a lob, or kicks it back out to whoever's kind of in rotation getting covered. Mike just can't do that anymore. I mean, right now he's hurt, but like in general, Mike can't play 30 minutes anymore. And the only other guy that really kind of recognizes this when it's happening is Rudy. And like, they don't pass him the ball when they're kind of into this point. So Rudy can kind of scream until his voice goes out, but like, he doesn't really have any control of the situation. So I do think part of it is just old habits, right? Like Julius on the Knicks, Julius in LA, Dante on the Knicks, Dante in Golden State, Dante in Milwaukee. Like those guys are just scores. Bones everywhere he's been. That's kind of been the knock, is that he kind of thinks that he's maybe significantly better than anyone else on the team. And Ant, we kind of know he has the heroics enough to where he just believes he's going to make everything. But unfortunately, there's going to be games like Memphis where it just does not fall and it looks really
Yeah.
bad. And before we started recording, I kind of joked with you, like, I think the loss to Memphis gives Finch some standing of like, hey, ISO ball isn't going to win them all. Like, we got to do better at this. And I imagine they had a very fun film session today, and hopefully in time for Oklahoma City, it's better. But I mean, this is something that they've been dealing with for really the last couple of years. And I don't know who would just snap them out of it now with Mike kind of taking that back seat on the bench.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the last couple of years, one of the other things was like this kind of loss was expected. It felt like
Yeah.
this year they were doing a little bit better against the weaker teams or the teams that were, when they played Golden State, they didn't have Draymond or Horford. And I know there was a couple other games this year like that too. So it did seem like they were maybe snapping out of that. But I want to go back to, you mentioned pace. And I know like Jaden gets a lot of his scoring when the ball is pushed. Nas a little
Mhm.
bit too. Bones has kind of helped push that pace, I'd say, the last few games. Um, when Ant and Mike Conley come back, how do they continue that? Because it seems like that, Julius will get an outlet or he'll get a rebound and he'll push by himself, and it's not getting the push ahead pass isn't always there. So I'm just like kind of, do you think the pace thing is something that's just lineup dependent for these last couple of games, or do you think there's something they can find with Mike and Ant coming back?
Well, I think what was interesting is their pace has been really good even when Rudy's on the floor the last couple of games, which kind of shows that Rudy is a guy that will get the ball and push it up. And honestly, like in Utah, he did that a ton where he'd get the rebound, push it up to Mike, push it up to Claxton, push it up to Mitchell, and just get teams running. I hate to say like it's an Ant centric thing. I think Ant and Julius are both guys that like to slow it down. Julius, when he gets the rebound and dribbles it up, very methodical. He likes to get the ball on the block, kind of work out of that low post, draw the double in, make that weird jump pass, and kind of get offense that way. I think Ant really likes to just get the ball, have a matchup, run an ISO, and kind of cook them. What's the balance, right? Like,
Hmm.
is Julius a guy that's going to, at this point in his career, turn into a fast break style player? Probably not. Ant is still young, so like theoretically, you'd think Ant would be easier to get on to that like page, but so far it hasn't borne out. Like when Ant does get the ball kind of as the outlet, he almost immediately slows it down the majority of the time, which I know over the offseason they were talking a ton about having like Mike be the primary outlet so that, just again, I know you have a coaching history, so it's like it's literally what you teach kids in grade school is like the tall guy gets the rebound, he throws it to the short guy, and then the short guy starts a three-man weave and you're off, right? And like that's kind of how they were talking this offseason was like, how do we
Yeah.
get that flow back so that Ant is running in transition, getting to these corner threes. But it does seem like when it gets to Ant as kind of that outlet, it just stops. Which
Hmm.
again, I wish I had an answer other than it kind of falls on Ant, which if we're being completely honest, like Ant is the reason that we have a chance at a championship, and he also might be the reason that we don't win one because of some of these things that just come with getting more experience in the NBA, like pushing pace.
Well, I think there's some good, right? Like in the playoffs, you got to find multiple ways to win. And
Hmm.
so if you roll, like Shannon's another one that's just he's amazing in transition. I know he's struggled a little bit this year, had the injury, but him in transition is a freight train. And so like they have a lot of guys that kind of fit that mold. It's just they have a couple that don't. And maybe that plays, maybe that's a benefit to them in the playoffs against certain teams that can kind of play how they need to play.
I do like how you brought up Bones though, because I do think the kind of the narrative on like Wolves Twitter is the Wolves need a point guard, right? Or the Wolves need like another ball handler. And I honestly like I was kind of thinking about it today. Like if Rob just worked out, like if he just kind of took that step this year, he's a guy that pushes pace. Like he's lightning quick, has a really quick dribble. I think he likes playing fast. Bones loves playing fast. Like both of those guys are the type of like yin to Anthony Edwards' yang of like playing slower. I also think both of those guys, like when Ant draws that double and cuts into the heart of the defense, those are guys you can kick out to and they can attack like a help defender and start that rotation or get it even like more out of position. It's just disappointing that like Rob and Bones haven't worked out yet, which Bones still kind of up in the air. He hasn't played a ton of minutes for them, but like I think that might be the answer to it is just, after a rebound, you throw it to Bones if you want to go fast and you throw it to Hant if you want to go slow. I think that's at least part of the like real want for a point guard too is just some other change of pace, which hopefully it's Bones. Then you don't have to give up any assets, but at the same time, like it is something that's been kind of glaring is the pace does just really slow down after missed shots.
we talked a little bit about Bones and Rob, Terrence Shannon there, and I just want to quickly talk about the bench because I do with Nikhil Alexander Walker being gone, obviously super important. Those minutes freed up, and I think a lot of fans and maybe even the team was expecting Shannon to kind of step right in and take that role. Hasn't quite worked out that way. I have consistently been screaming for more Jalen Clark. Um, I think they are 13-0 when he plays 14 minutes and 3-8 when he plays less than 14 or something like that, right? Like the numbers
They're
are,
undefeated when he plays 15 or more.
yeah. I mean,
That's all
so
I know.
last night he plays 8, I think it was. Um, and to me, I feel like there is an opportunity because a couple years ago, the reason this team was so good defensively is because you had Jaden, you had Nikhil, you had Kyle Anderson, you had guys who like their thing was defense. And right
Yep.
now we got one with Jaden. I'm talking wing defenders, perimeter defenders,
Yeah.
obviously Rudy. Um, but I feel like Jalen Clark is Lou Dort. He's Alex Caruso. Like, and I know he's not as good offensively as
Mhm.
Caruso at least. But to me, he's got to play more, and especially when Ant and Conley are out. I could not believe he was in single digit minutes last night. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about Jalen Clark, but I'm very passionate.
I love Jalen. Like as a person, he is delightful. Like quick Jalen Clark aside story. Like he did a charity event at I think it was Mystic Lakes Casino. I can't remember because I don't have it in front of me, but like he did a event with the tribal elders where him and Leonard Miller went out there to receive these bone beaded necklaces that the elders had made for all of the Wolves players. And Jalen Clark was running like 30 minutes late and felt like awful about it. So like he showed up, sat with the elders, was like talking to him. And then like the security guy's like, "Hey, we're leaving." And Jalen's like, "Nah, just get out of here. Like I'm going to like hang out with the elders more." And I kid you not, like an hour after that, I had driven home, got home, the like PR person from the tribe sent me a text of like Jalen's still here and he's planning a bingo event with the elders. And then sure enough, a week and a half later, Jalen drove back out there by himself on like an off night to go meet the elders at the casino and play bingo with them, which like the dude's 22 years old. I don't know what you were doing when you were
Yeah.
22. I wasn't driving 40 minutes to go play bingo with tribal elders. So I
No.
I genuinely am rooting for the kids so much. Like just a great human.
Yeah.
I mean the bench stuff has been tough. Like getting back to your actual question, like I think Nikhil leaving is part of it, right? I also think part of it is Dante is now in the starting lineup, whereas Mike was in the starting lineup last year. And Mike can only give you 12 minutes. So Mike is going from your starting point guard to your eighth, eighth and a half guy. I mean, he's kind of the last guy on that bench rotation. Ideally, I know he's averaging 19, I think, but like in an ideal world, he's playing 10 to 15. That's kind of where he says his body feels good at. So you're missing Dante and you're missing Nikhil off the bench. And I think the Wolves were really hopeful that TJ would take one of those spots and Rob would take the other. And what has happened is TJ is now on scouting reports and people know how to attack him. They know that he's going to be playing a step or two off and relying on his athleticism to recover. That doesn't work in the NBA. Everyone's a hyper athlete. And they know on offense that he's really left hand dominant. And last season, they didn't have that scouting report. This year, everyone that's going to be matched up on him is being told to make TJ go right, which that sucks. Like when you're used to being able to just blow by people with your left hand, sneak in for a layup, and now you're only going right because that's where every defender is pushing you. That's tough to deal with. And with Rob, it's been kind of the same stuff thus far in his career. A lot of turnovers, shooting nights that are on or off, passing up shots that he should be taking, making passes that don't make sense. And then it leaves you with Jalen, which I will say Jalen as a defender, awesome. I do think, when you're a guy that's only getting 15 minutes, I think he's averaging like over 2 fouls a game, which that's just tough. Like if a guy's coming in for a 7-minute shift in the second quarter, you can't have him blowing 2 of your 5 fouls before you get in the bonus. And then on offense, again, he's on a scouting report. People know that if he's not in the corner, he's not going to shoot the three. People know he's not a threat off the ball. So kind of what we saw with Memphis is they didn't even guard him. They just put a double on Julius and said if Jalen hits 3 threes, we'll live with it. And if he's not hitting shots, he's kind of like Gobert out there on offense, which really hard to play Jalen if he's not making an impact on offense, and Rudy. And I think that's where they get into a pickle where it's, Jalen is going to give us a lot of juice on offense, but if that guy's not hitting his shot and that guy's not, a threat at the rim, we can't have two non-shooters out there. And then you look at Rudy's minutes, and if he's playing 32 to 36 minutes, that really only gives you 10 to 12 where Jalen can be out there. The other thing that's really weird is they try and match Rob's minutes with Jalen because they figure, Jalen's so good at fighting through screens, he can kind of make up for some of Rob's, just getting brick walled and falling and size issues, I guess is probably the nice way to say it, because Rob's actually been fairly good on defense. Like he leads the team in steals per 36. He's scrappy, goes for rebounds, but when you're matching Jalen with Rob and Jaden, that also just now you don't really have anyone on the perimeter has kind of that confidence that a Dante or an Ant has. So I think it's just hard. It's a very long way of saying I think it's just hard to get him minutes. And I'll be honest, like Finch loves the kid. Like I think this is not a case of Finch not wanting to play him. I think it's literally just how do I get him minutes while keeping the offense somewhat functional.
Mm-hmm. I think I heard Dane, it might have been Dane and Kyle talking about the non-Rudy minutes and that you have to have Jalen with Jaden in those minutes just defensively, which I think makes a ton of sense, which again, to your point, maybe that's why he's limited on his minutes a little bit. I just, I feel like I heard Finch the other day talk about, they're going to get their 10 minutes and that's it until they can like crush those 10 minutes and then they'll get more. I guess it's early enough in the year that you can roll with that. I do think at some time you got to start making choices and letting guys play through that. Like you were saying, like they scouting reports out. Okay. You got to figure that out. Like Shannon, you got to be able to come in and execute maybe something different or, Jalen, like, we need you to play because come playoff time, I think those guys have to play at least some meaningful minutes. So you can't hide those guys. You can't have Mike and Nas be your only bench guys. At some point you need more than that.
I think if push comes to shove, like we're in the playoffs now, round one against whoever, I think Finch is probably going to lean more Jalen than the other two just because Jalen, he's a really smart player. He doesn't turn the ball over very much. Like he makes good decisions. He is handsy, so the fouling is kind of an issue. But like to your point, like when the playoffs hit, it's going to be 8 guys. And it's right now probably Nas, Mike, and Jalen. And that's kind of disappointing if you're a Wolves fan because Rob was an 8th overall pick. TJ had such promise last year in the playoffs, and now they're just kind of not even in a playoff rotation. Like that stings, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully they develop.
I saw Shannon at NBA Summer League, like up close and like as close as I've ever seen, NBA action. And dude, I mean, he was unreal and he was making shots and I know it's summer league, but just physically, I was like, this guy is so much further ahead than everybody else on this court. So I'm still holding out hope that he can turn a corner. That injury, I think, really derailed him a little bit. So we'll see, how things shake out with him. But
the defense has been kind of my thing with TJ is that's confusing because like you're right, he is a freak athlete. Like that guy is more athletic than probably anyone I will ever meet walking down the street. And yet he's the worst defender on the team right now, like analytically, statistically, eye test wise. So if he's able to just figure that out of like how to be a productive defender, I think he probably leapfrogs Clark. But right now he's fouling like crazy. He's not being able to like stop straight line drives. It's just kind of a mess, which I mean, the other thing I will say is just because this is turned into a very like all hope is lost segment, but like these guys are
We'll get
legitimately,
positive in a minute.
yeah. I was just gonna say like these guys are legitimately like good kids. Like I'm in my 30s. I'll call him a kid. It's fine. Like Rob legitimately is there every day, putting in the work in the weight room. Like his lockers between Bones and Mike Conley, and Pablo is the point guard coach. Like he has a ton of opportunities. He's trying to soak up as much as he can. Like I wouldn't count him out yet. And I feel the same way with TJ. Like he's working with Ant's like development coach, Chris Hines. He's like everyone behind the scenes like talks about how he is just a gym rat. Even like Finch says that they've had to like tell him to kind of tone it down a little bit because like you can't work out that hard and play 25 minutes a night. So like I wouldn't bet against either of these guys at some point being a good NBA player. It's just hard because the Wolves need them to be good now. And
Mm-hmm.
that might not happen for a couple more years for either of them.
Yeah, they're kind of caught in this weird dynamic where they have Ant, of course, kind of now and long term, but then they got a
Hmm.
bunch, three or four guys that are kind of like on the end of it. And then you got a bunch of younger guys, and you're trying to mix and match. So I don't envy Finch at all in this, but I think he's earned our trust a little bit in Wolves fandom to figure it out, get them going in the right direction, and I think they'll be all right. So yeah, I was sensing the negativity as well. So I was like, I want to switch to one of my positives from the year, and I talked about this on one of my recent podcasts. Was Jaden McDaniels' offensive improvements. The last I looked, which might have been a few days ago, he was third in the NBA in 3-point percentage, which is wild to say. I don't know where he's at now. But like one of the, I guess, another disappointing thing from the other night, but it's a positive for Jaden, is I was shocked that he only took 11 shots. I think he was like tied for fourth on the team in shot attempts last night. And so what do you, as you go to practice or you're watching the games, what do you see differently from Jaden on offense that's kind of giving him, I don't know if it's confidence or what, but he just looks to me like a guy that he could be Jalen Williams to Ant Shea. Like he, but he just doesn't show it enough. But what has transformed Jaden's offensive game?
It's all confidence. I mean, I hate to just say it's that, but like everyone on the team says it. Like Nas is really tight with Jaden, like outside of basketball, and he's just like Jaden's just this is confident Jaden. This is what we needed. I kind of joke with him quite a bit of like, is this bringing the t-shirt back? Like you're trying to get back to like high school Jaden. Like I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just he started the season pretty hot because normally he starts the season ice cold from three. I mean, the other thing is for the last 3 years, every media day, Chris Finch talks about how they want to get Jaden more involved in the offense. And then something massively weird happens, whether it's, you know, Cat being traded for Julius Randle and Dante, and now you got to figure their stuff out. You know, the year before, you're still trying to figure out the Rudy Cat thing and trying to get that a little bit better. Ant's taking a bigger step. So I think this is probably what the Wolves and Jaden have thought that he could do all along, but now it's just everything is coming together. He's shooting the three ball really well. His like playmaking I think is really underrated. Like maybe one of the few, like maybe the only guy outside of Mike that actually has like decent playmaking chemistry with Rudy. And I mean, that unlocks a ton. If you can run a pick and roll with Jaden and Rudy, two guys that are 7 feet tall, and you have Rudy going to the rim and Jaden who can make these weird pull up shots, I don't know how you defend it. Like the teams don't have that type of size unless you have Wemby. So I think it's unlocked a ton. It just kind of goes back to what we started the show with of just, they got to embrace that ball movement and getting everybody shots. Cause I mean, against Memphis, to your point, the reason he had 11 shots is because people stopped passing it to him. And Jaden's not a, stomp on the ground, give me the ball type of guy. He's a lunch pail, puts in his hours and is really good at what he does type of guy. So I think, if Jaden shoots 5 more shots in the fourth quarter, they might have beat Memphis. But maybe that's the next evolution, is Jaden kind of getting that voice a little bit more to demand the ball. But he's been sensational. I mean, honestly, like he is, his offensive development is not something I thought was possible, and I was a guy that was saying I'd take the over under of one All-Star appearance for Jaden before the season.
Yeah, I mean I love what you said about the pick and roll with him and Rudy, because I'm thinking, their late game execution, especially against the better teams, has always been a issue. Um, but if you run that and you spray that with Dante, Ant, and Julius, I mean,
Like, what do
again,
you
like
do?
you said, how do you defend that? Yeah. Um, you got 7'2" wingspan lobbing to 7'2" Rudy, like that's just crazy. I mean, I would love more Ant off the ball, someone else initiate, someone else run pick and roll. Like, just, I mean, I think at the end of games they get bogged down because Ant, like we were kind of talking about earlier, there's a little bit of a slow pace. Everybody runs two at him, and then you're just, they're scrambling. And OKC is specifically super good at getting out of that and getting recovering. But if he's off the ball and you're running some action with him on the backside, and you got a Rudy and Jaden, I mean, that would be, God, we could only
Well,
hope to
and
see
no
that
one's going to
sometime
cheat
here.
off. Like, you can't cheat
Right.
off Dante. He's going to hit a three. You
No.
can't cheat off Julius. He's too strong. You can't give him a head of steam. And like, no one in the world is cheating off of Ant. So you have this
Right.
option of they've done it a few times where they just, you know, Jaden kind of gets it at the college 3-point line, takes a pick and roll from Rudy, and if they drop on it, Rudy gets a dunk, and if they don't, Jaden has a ton of space to hit his weird little mid-range paint jumper. I mean, it is
Yeah.
kind of like a cheat code play. It's just, you know, gotta, you can't run it 30 times a game, but they gotta run it more than once.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. I have lots more questions. I have lots more to talk about, but I do want to get you out of here on a decent schedule. So, I got buddies who would kill me to not ask you about Rudy, but I think I might have to see if you can come on some other time.
You can
And we'll
also
talk
ask
about
me
Rudy.
about Rudy. It's okay.
Well,
He's really into
I don't,
quinoa and crystal healing.
yeah, more so. Okay, we'll just do it now. All right, I got
Yeah.
you. You're locked in. Okay. Um, the question I have, and I hear from other people, right? Like, I know the defensive rating numbers. He's on the floor, he's off the floor. I mean, it's very obvious, and the numbers don't lie. I can't help but watch and wonder, like, how many more rebounds we'd have if he could catch the ball better, or how many more points we could score if we had a center who could, like, do something besides just dunk. And I mean, again, totally respect his defensive prowess, how he leads that group, how he communicates. Um, so I guess make it make sense, because sometimes I'm thinking, yeah, just catch the rebound, or like just do this. But he does so many things. So, like, what are the non-obvious things that Rudy does so well to impact the team?
So non-obvious things. I think first and foremost, it sucks to play against Rudy Gobert. Like that guy, I'm. If I looked like Rudy, I don't think I would ever wear a shirt. Like that guy is the most built, takes care of his body, like strong, imposing, physical. like watching games up close where like the media sits, like it legitimately looks like the other center a lot of times is like fighting for their lives because Rudy is just so much stronger than them that they just get like kind of ragdolled a lot of times, especially when they're trying to get like post position. Rudy's just like, no, you're not doing this. And then it doesn't happen. I think he also is, his defense is so versatile where you see it a little bit more this year where they're letting him switch into space. Like he's able to guard guys out on the wing. He's able to rotate back into the post. He has really good footwork rotating back in the post. For a guy that lives under the basket, he never gets 3-second calls. And how the defense of the Wolves plays is they want to funnel everything directly at Rudy. Like the whole defense, whether it's in drop or even in man, is like we got Rudy behind us, which gives everyone else the ability to be more aggressive. It gives Dante the ability to make these gambles on some of these steals that he makes. It gives Jaden the ability to get really handsy and try and like cheat off his guy to get an off-ball steal. Even like Jalen talks about it, that like knowing Rudy is behind you gives him all of this freedom to really kind of be more of a menace. So I think that's the thing that kind of sets the table with Rudy is he is a personal top 5 defense because he allows everybody else on the team to be more aggressive. And whether you're Shea or whether you're Jalen Wells from last night, like when you got aggressive people guarding you, it sucks. And when you're a post player and you're dealing with Rudy, it sucks. So I think that sets the table. On offense, it's a little bit harder because Rudy, he's a lot of times just clogging up the lane, calling for the ball, which I would argue 6 out of 10 times he is right and they should lob it to him, but that no one does, which that's been the story of his career. He does get moving screens quite a bit. He doesn't really have much of a bag. You mentioned the hands, not great. I do think Rudy is really good at reading the game offensively, though. Like when he is in a pick and roll and they hit him on the short roll and he catches it. So 3 things have to happen. 1, they have to decide to run a play with Rudy Gobert, which isn't always a given. Then he has to catch the thing. But once he gets the ball, he is really good at making that next pass and making it right where it should be. Like very quick decision, very quick movement, and he's very good at kind of getting those maybe like not assists, but like the hockey assists or the assist to the assist. I think he's excellent at that. So defensively, he gives you this really good floor and base to stand on. And then offensively, like I'm not a big like screen assist true shooting percentage guy. Like I don't know. Sure, Rudy's really good at that. That's what the numbers say. But when I look at it, it's when he's actually involved in the offense and they're relying on him to make decisions. He rarely makes a bad decision. And I think unfortunately the 2 or 3 times he punts a ball into the third row or chucks it off the backboard and it doesn't even hit the rim, like those are the things that stick in people's mind because it's so bad that they don't notice like Rudy battling for position, getting the offensive rebound and getting like a touch shot back, or Rudy getting a pass off of a pick and roll and like zipping it to Dante for Dante to zip over to Jaden. So long answer to say, defense, and he's a smart player.
Yeah. And that's probably what this team needs, right? Like that's why he's so valuable because like he does do a lot of that stuff. The tip outs and we have seen him Golden State game, the Lakers series last year when they kind of challenged him a little bit with the size and then he just went out and dominated and he did it against Golden State when they didn't have Horford and um, who was the other guy? Draymond was out. So like he has his moments. I agree. Like when they get him involved, he does seem to be a different player. So yeah, I mean the numbers bear it out. He's incredibly valuable. I think sometimes it's frustrating to say like the amount that he gets paid to not do some of these other things skill wise, but there are so many things like you said that he can do that just they're winning plays at the end of the day.
The other benefit to Rudy that's more behind the scenes is like he is a professional. Like I wasn't on the beat with credentials when he got traded here, but like from day one, he shows up every day to do his weightlifting. He shows up every day to do his shoot around. He does like his yoga. He eats extremely healthy. He's like always willing to talk and work out with the younger players. Like there is something about just having a guy that is like the consummate professional, that he is going to go in, put his work in, be the same guy every single day. And like that stuff does matter when you have young guys like Ants, because Ant coming out of Georgia, I mean, shout out to Chris Hines. His book's on my back shelf there, but like, shout out to Chris Hines for doing Ant's biography. Like that was not Ant in high school and for most of college. Like a lot of the workout stuff, a lot of the habits is you get guys like Mike and Kyle and Rudy in there to set that behind the scenes precedent. And we're seeing it with Johan, quite frankly. Like Johan is glued to Rudy. Their lockers are right next to each other. Rudy like cooks some food. Like, you know, do I stand for everything Rudy stands for on a philosophical measure? Probably not, but the dude does know how to be successful in the NBA. And I do think that gets undersold a little bit just because, you know, some of the on-court stuff is so jarring. And because, like you said, he was up until this year, he's making like $48 million. Like that's absurd for a guy that can't catch the ball consistently. But sometimes you're paying that extra 10 million just so that your young players learn that they don't get to take 15 games off a year and like rest.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think they've even talked about that, the Wolves, the team and Finch, about how like some of the guys might be taking a night off, and those are the nights Rudy shows up big time, and they
Yep.
don't win those games without him. So um, let's finish with some upcoming games. I don't want to get into like rest of the season and predictions or anything, but they do have a tougher stretch coming up. They got OKC tomorrow night, Friday, the 19th. They got Denver and they got the Knicks, the Denver on Christmas Day, and the Knicks right between those two. So I was impressed with how they played at OKC the first time, kind of squandered away a couple turnovers at the end of that one. Otherwise, they were right there. Um, is this like 0-3, we panic? Is it, if you know, 2-1, we're feeling really good? Like, how do you assess these next three games, assuming Ant is back tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think if they're 2-1, you're feeling really good. If they're 1-2, you're probably feeling the same as you feel today. And if they lose all three of them, I think, you know, they're gonna have to try and figure out some answers to some of this stuff. Like if they lose all three of them and none of them are particularly great games, then I think you're looking at Tim Connolly of kind of like, all right, well, you couldn't beat anyone in a 3-game stretch at full strength. Like what can we do here? I'll be honest though, this is a Wolves team that for the last 3 years they rise to the occasions, and if you told me they came out and beat all three of them, I wouldn't be particularly surprised. Like Oklahoma City Friday night on ESPN, New York coming to town, and then a Christmas primetime game against Denver. That's the stuff Ant and Jaden live for. So I I wouldn't count them out yet, but it's going to be a nice measuring stick to see where they at least stack up now. Because the early season losses to the Lakers, I think it was no Ant in one of them. The other one they sleepwalk through and lose to a no Doncic, Jake LaRavia Hall of Fame game.
Yeah.
The losses to Denver, I think you can look at kind of the same way of like, I think one of them they didn't have Ant, the other one it was a close up until the buzzer. This 3-game stretch, I think we're going to be able to at least get something out of, whether that's good, bad, or otherwise. I'll also say, like, I think Ant's going to be good to go. Like, I don't know exactly what his foot injury is, but the at least kind of what I've been hearing is that it's nothing concerning. It's just something they don't want to nag at him going into a stretch of tough games. So probably makes more sense to give him a week or two off than, have that progress into something where he's missing like all of January. So I
Right.
think he'll be
Yeah.
back. Mike, I kind of get the same feeling. I wouldn't be surprised if they give Mike more time off just because he's pushing 40. But he looks fine. Talked to him in the locker room the last couple games. Like he seems fine. I think it's just a maintenance thing.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't bring up was the game against Milwaukee on Sunday. So they go 3-0 against New York, Denver, and OKC, but lose to Milwaukee. That would be the least shocking Timberwolves thing of all time.
Milwaukee with no Giannis. That would be
Right.
there you go. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'd
Yeah.
love to get your thoughts though, because I feel like I answered a lot. I mean, where have you felt like the Wolves have been this season, and what are you kind of looking to see out of the next 3 games?
Um, I think it's pretty on brand. I was a little bit taken back at the beginning when they just couldn't beat these winning teams. It just kind of felt like what's going on here? It felt like a matter of time. And then of course they blow the Phoenix game, they blow the Kings game. Um, so I would say a little more frustrated than intended. I keep waiting for them to like do what OKC did this year, right? Where they go out and
Yeah.
win a title and they come back and they are like, no, no, that ain't enough. We're getting more. We're going to be more dominant without our second best player. And
Hmm.
so I think that's right or wrong. The measuring stick a little bit is like, which I mean, to their credit, I'm going to measure them against the best team in the NBA. But
Yeah.
so I think that, we heard all off season about Ant's new closing moves and mid post this and Kobe, MJ fadeaway that. Still kind of waiting to see a little bit of that. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, just disappointment with the bench mostly. Like I said, I'm still hopeful on both Jalen and um, TJ. I seeing Rob up close at Summer League, I walked away from
Yeah. It's
that.
tough.
Like, I just don't know, man. I just the physicality, the body. And the turnovers. That was the really big thing because I'm like, if you're turning the ball over at Summer League, it ain't going to get any easier in the association. So, but like you said, I think they beat Denver on Christmas Day. I think I think they might beat the Knicks at home too. Um, so I could see them, you know, OKC is just coming off the Spurs loss in the NBA Cup. I do not think they're going to be I think they're going to go on like another 15 games here of just dominance. But I'd love to be proven wrong on that one because it's fun to watch those two teams battle.
You're completely right about like OKC being the measuring stick. Like that is the measuring stick for the whole league. Like
Yeah,
I think the Wolves are putting themselves in position to at least have like a chance to win a ring if something were to go wrong. But yeah, it's I think that's the general sense of a lot of people in the media and fans is just, it's been kind of disappointing. Like it would be nice to to have seen some growth in this team in certain areas. I mean, it is still December. Maybe it gets better as the year goes on, but it does kind of seem like it's last year's team all over again, where they will get to the postseason and then like knock Houston out in 5 games, and we'll be like, what is going on?
yeah. I mean it's better than the like previous 25 years or 20 years. We started talking about KG like from '04 to like basically 2021. It was a pretty tough product. So I don't want to get too wrapped up in
Yeah,
hey NBA title or bust. But yeah, I mean I think we all feel like Ant we got the guy, and so you're
yeah,
just and the other thing is he's like what 3 or 4 years younger than Shea. So I mean Shea didn't really take off till he was like 26, 27. So there's time. I think it's just fun to have a team in town that's it's legit that gets talked about that gets to play on Christmas Day. So
hmm yeah. I mean, to your point, there's a reason there's that kind of old adage that players don't win a ring until they're 27. Like it's kind of been poked holes in recently. I think Steph's first ring was at 26. Giannis won one at 25. Tatum won one at 26. But like 25, 26, if we're looking at this realistically, like Ant is the same age as Doncic when they knocked the Wolves out of the playoffs 2 years ago. So I think it's fair to have expectations, but I think you're right that it's also fair to like, it's fair to just also have that realization of like Ant, Jaden, and Nas 3 years from now are probably going to be way better than they are now, and
Mhm.
that's going to be a completely different ceiling than they have now. But yeah, it's a weird team. It's a really weird team.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But you know, it's always fun for the ride. Like, last year, kind of January, February, they kicked it into gear and took off and made another run. So, that's the tough thing with basketball. I always, even as a coach, it was tough, and as a coach of a sixth grader, it's tough. But like, there's such a process. It is such a grind of a season that things, in the NBA, every win matters, right? It's all a loss in November counts the same as a loss in March, but there is growth, there's change, things, and I think Finch has shown that, he can kind of massage those things throughout the year. So um, I think I predicted fourth or fifth going into the year for the Wolves, just because I
Mhm.
liked what Denver did in the offseason. I mean, I think they're as close to OKC as anybody right now. And then Houston picking up KD, I was not sure how that would work out. And especially when Van Vliet went down, I was like, dude, they got no point guard. And Amen Thompson just I'll do it. And they're kind of rolling too. So, but the Wolves are within striking distance of Houston. So,
Yeah.
and Denver, to be honest. So, that's where these losses, like last night to Memphis, I think are just gut wrenching because you're like every game is going to mean something in the season to get these playoff positions. But sometimes we as fans, I think, get a little bit too into the Timberwolves blew that game because you know what? OKC lost to Portland, and
Yeah.
Houston's probably got some bad losses too. So it happens.
Denver will lose some games too. I mean, they
Yeah,
always usually have a mid-season lull where they lose like 5 of 6, and everyone starts wondering if Jokic is overrated. I
he's not,
I
by the
mean,
way.
what I'll say is that the Wolves, it's a different perspective on the team when you're like up close with them because like yes, they don't like losing. Like they're all pretty pissed after a loss, but it's not like they don't take anything like super they don't take like any win super personal and they don't take any loss super personal. They're very
Mhm.
like even keeled, like they have a good mindset to not like panic and also not feel themselves too much. So I'm not worried about it. I joked a lot last season of like this team has to do everything the hard way. And maybe that's just how it is again, where we get to February and they need to win 10 out of 11 to get the 3 seed. And then they just go do it because
Yeah.
that's how this team is wired, it seems. Like they're a bunch of guys that are underdogs. And I think they genuinely like it when media or fans or opposing fans are questioning them. Like literally everyone on this team is an underdog from Mike and
Yeah.
Rudy all the way down to Julius, Ant, and Jaden. Like Ant wasn't supposed to be a superstar. Jaden wasn't supposed to make it. Rudy came from nothing. Mike wasn't supposed to be a super. Julius broke his leg in half his rookie season. Like I do think they
Yeah.
genuinely like it when people start to doubt them.
Yeah. Well, let's keep doing it then. Let's keep
Yes.
doubting
More
him.
negativity. That's what we're pushing.
Yeah. That's a selling product right there. Andrew Dukowitz, thank you so much. This has been so fun. We covered a lot of ground. I'll just say that. But where can people find you and where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, all my written works over on Zone Coverage. Pieces come out Wednesday and Friday. I do quite a bit of stuff for Fox 9 too. So if you're ever just hanging out watching Amy Hockert on All Day Live, Max Fuller, I'm on their shows every once in a while, just popping in talking hoops. My post game pods run on YouTube and X, Missing Minnesota, Missing Wolves, Missing Links. And all socials, it's pretty easy to follow me. A Duke MN on TikTok, Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram. Again, I try and post a lot of like behind the scenes stuff. Primarily, I cover right now though Gophers, women, and Wolves. But Lynx at some point will have a season, and then we'll get back into that realm as well. But I appreciate you having me on, man. It's been fun. We'll get you on a post game show at some point too, so we can do some reactions to hopefully not a soul crushing loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it. Check out Andrew's work over at Zone Coverage and all the post game stuff. Super fun. Check out his latest podcast with Max Fuller too. That was a fun one. So, Andrew, appreciate it. Take care, man.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
Back in that bag again.